Possibilities, I speak truth to power without fear. So I did a video about Joe Biden meeting with civil rights leaders. In response to that video, a lot of people left comments critical of my video. And I just want to take some time to respond to those people. Um, First of all, a lot of people were suggesting that I was basically caping for Joe Biden. And they were suggesting that that was the motivation behind the video, that I was on here defending Joe Biden, and that's what it was about. This video was not about defending Joe Biden. This video was about defending the truth and speaking out against falsehood. That's what it was about. I mean, many people who are familiar with this channel know that I did not support Joe Biden during the primaries. I supported Bernie Sanders, and I also supported Elizabeth Warren. And it's documented. I have videos on here that are critical of Joe Biden. And if he does something that I don't approve of, or he opposes things that I support or that are very important to the black community, I will continue to voice my opposition. I will continue to voice it. So that's the first thing that I had to get out of the way. This is not about caping for Joe Biden. This is about defending the truth, because you had people on here who are completely distorting what that meeting was about. Just outright lying about what happened during that meeting. Many of these people ran and put up videos before they even listened to the actual meeting. The whole meeting is actually available for you to watch and listen to. Again, I will post a link to that meeting so people can watch it for themselves, because you had people on here lying about what happened. People on here talking about Joe Biden said he wasn't going to do anything for black people. A complete lie. No rational person watching that video can reach that conclusion that he said he wasn't going to do anything for black people. So I had to just call out that falsehood. You know, some of these people here on YouTube have zero principles. They don't stand for the truth. They stand for what is popular, what will get them likes, what will get them views. That's their primary motivation. Me, I'm about the truth, even if it means I get a lot of thumbs downs and all that kind of stuff. Even if it means that people going to unsubscribe from my channel. On here, I say I speak truth to power without fear, and I absolutely mean that. I absolutely mean that. So I just had to get that clear. Another point that I wanted to address, you had this one YouTuber, and I'm not mentioning names in this video. It's more about the actual content than the personalities. But you had this one YouTuber basically say, well, they should have met with Joe Biden before the election. And this person basically suggested that it doesn't matter now because Joe Biden's not going to do what they want him to do. He's under no pressure since he's already been elected. And the first thing that I have to say to that is many of these people, many of those leaders have had meetings with Joe Biden before this most recent meeting after the election. Many of those leaders met with him before the election. Many of those leaders pushed him on various things, and because of that, he embraced those things and put them into his Lift Every Voice program or platform for the black community. People like Al Sharpton. Al Sharpton actually met with Joe Biden back in June, and with George Floyd's family. So Joe Biden met with Al Sharpton and George Floyd's family. And at that meeting, he made certain commitments to make various changes when it comes to police reform and all that kind of stuff. He made commitments. Al Sharpton talked to him about those issues. And many of those other leaders, I'm sure, met with him. So that's one thing that just had to be put out here. And even meeting with him afterwards still matters. Because it's not about just electing somebody. It's about holding them accountable and making sure that they promote our interests and embrace our issues. That's what it's about. This is not about somebody just voting for someone and then chilling and pretending like everything's going to be okay now. We have to continue to put pressure on these elected officials, regardless of what party they belong to. And that's what these leaders have done. Even before this meeting with Joe Biden, they were putting pressure on him to uh, take certain action. They were putting pressure on him, for instance, to appoint more black people in these high positions of power in the Biden administration. And guess what? He responded to that pressure and appointed black people to positions of power. And we also saw the influence of many of these leaders when it came to his decision well before the election to decide to appoint Kamala Harris as the vice president. That was a response to pressure that he received from the black community, a community that he had to rely on in order to get elected. So let's quit exaggerating things and quit distorting things. I mean, you got people that are nothing but, I mean, these people are YouTube personalities. They don't have any kind of experience at all getting any kind of laws passed. Whereas these civil rights leaders that met with Joe Biden have that experience. But yet and still, you got YouTube personalities trying to lecture them about how they should proceed politically. When these groups have a track record of getting laws passed, of winning civil rights cases, of actually engaging in protests and actually making a difference in communities. They know what they're doing. And unlike, these YouTube personalities, those leaders are held accountable by the membership in their organizations. So that's something that had to be pointed out. And I'm going to go through these comments to see some other points that I need to respond to. So just bear with me a second, because a lot of people left different comments. But I think that covered a lot of the key comments, but I'm going to get into some of these other comments that people left as well. Another thing is this, like somebody suggested that you can't make demands of somebody if they know that you're going to support them regardless. I mean, number one, those leaders aren't supporting somebody regardless. The black community is not supporting somebody regardless. When, Joe Biden makes a wrong move or does something wrong, these leaders are going to speak out against it. And they have already done so before he's even been put in office. They complained about him not appointing enough black people to high positions. And guess what? He had to respond to it, as I said before. They complained about, certain actions taken by him. And he has to deal with these issues because he knows that the black vote is critical. Joe Biden knows that he can't get anything done without black support, without, these black elected officials supporting him on various issues and stuff like that. It will be impossible for him to accomplish anything and get any laws passed without the support of the black community. So black people still have great leverage in the situation. But many of these people that are talking about the lack of leverage, they don't understand that if the majority of black people were to listen to these YouTube personalities, the black community would have zero leverage, because these personalities on here tried to tell you and me not to vote, tried to tell you and me to sit home, to hold our vote and all this other stupid stuff. If we had listened to those fools, and thank God the majority of black people came out in droves and voted in high numbers, proving these people irrelevant. But if we had listened to these people, to these YouTube personalities, black people would have zero leverage because, first of all, Donald Trump would have 4 more years in the White House. 4 more years. And we know that he didn't meet with any of these civil rights leaders. He didn't meet with any of the Congressional Black Caucus. He didn't meet with the Congressional Black Caucus. He didn't give a damn about black issues or any of that stuff. We would have zero leverage. We would have instead a man who openly supports white supremacists given 4 more years in the White House. That's what we would have had if you had listened to these ignorant Negroes here on YouTube telling you not to vote for Joe Biden or not to vote, period. That's where we would have been if we had listened to those idiots. But yet they want to lecture people about leveraging political power. How are you going to leverage anything when you're completely out of power? How are you going to leverage anything when if you don't vote, you don't count? Politicians immediately write off communities and people and individuals that don't vote. They don't even waste their time canvassing in those neighborhoods where people don't vote. But yet you got these know-it-all, know nothing, do nothing YouTubers on here trying to tell you about how you're not going to be able to leverage anything when Joe Biden is dependent on the black community. It was the black community that help him win the nomination and the election. And he knows this. He's very aware of it, and that's what they talk to him about. And, you know, people had this notion that they're going to support black leaders, you know, I mean, not black leaders, or that these black leaders are going to support him, you know, Biden regardless, and black people are going to support him regardless. When many of these leaders, again, have spoken out against things that they disagree with him. And you had somebody like Al Sharpton make a bold statement to Joe Biden's face, talking about how we're not looking for better slave masters. We are looking for freedom. That's what Al Sharpton told Joe Biden. But you don't hear any of that stuff in any of these videos that any of these Negro YouTubers have put up. You don't hear any of that. Instead, you get these distortions about what happened. Instead, you got these fake woke people using the same rhetoric of as these Coon-servatives, basically jacking their language, you know, talking about they're going to ride black people like He-Man ride some tiger, you know, basically jacking this conservative YouTuber. And I'm not mentioning names in this video, but this conservative YouTuber basically said the same thing about riding the black community after they voted for Obama. But here you had these fake woke people using the same recycled rhetoric. So let's see what else these people are saying in the comment section. Now, a lot of people talked about Joe Biden's tone. And on that issue, like, I agree that he didn't have the best tone for this meeting. You know, his tone, he sounded like, as I said in my prior video, like he was defensive. You know, like he felt like, you know, why are these people questioning my record when I have, you know, done all these things and blah, blah, blah. So I understand that. Like his tone was animated, it was amped up and all that kind of stuff. So I understand where people are coming from with respect to his tone. And I criticized his tone as well in my video. But when you go beyond just the tone and just look at what was said, you see that this is a man that does support many of the issues that these leaders were pressing before him. Now, another point that I wanted to raise is this. Like somebody made a comment about how it's self-serving for Joe Biden to be in support of voting rights issues. And they were basically using that to say, well, that's not something significant, or it's only out of self-interest that he's supporting voting rights. And here's my response to that. First of all, like, even if it serves his interest for black people to be able to vote and all that kind of stuff, because black people tend to vote more for Democrats and stuff like that, that is completely irrelevant. I mean, many times when laws are passed, you know, there is what Derek Bell called a convergence of interests. That's what happens. Like it serves the interests of Democrats or whatever for black people to be able to vote because black people tend to vote for more Democrats over Republicans. But it also serves our interest for us to be able to exercise our right to vote. It serves our interest because we're able to put people in power that promote our agenda. So it matters. You know, it's because of the right to vote that we have certain changes in the laws and all that kind of stuff, because we have been able to elect people that support our agenda. So that's something that's positive. You know, he's on board with supporting us having, you know, expanded voting rights, and he's on board with ending, you know, voter suppression. And so, like the fact that it helps the interests of the Democrats as well is irrelevant. It's about us having the right to determine who's going to lead our communities. That's what matters. And we determine that through our vote. The vote is like the fountain of democracy. It's the fountain through which all these other rights flow. And, you know, so this would be something we should celebrate. Like, we shouldn't be concerned that he understands that it benefits Democrats for black people to be able to vote. That's irrelevant. You know, the same person that's talking about how this is self-interested, they don't have anything to say about these Republicans who are systemically trying to suppress black votes. They don't have anything to say about Donald Trump trying to suppress black voters with these false allegations of voter fraud. They have nothing to say about a man that's literally taking a page from Jim Crow to suppress black voters. They had nothing to say about that. But yet they want to criticize somebody for expanding voting rights, for defending voting rights. This is what passes for logic here on YouTube. This is how lost and nutty some of these people are here on YouTube. So let me go into some of these other comments before I close out. Just bear with me a second. I'm trying to see if there's a point that I missed. And somebody said, again, he did not earn this amount of defense. This is not about defending him. It's about defending the truth. And, you know, you got these people on here lying. So that's what it's about again. So let's see. And then you got one of these Trump supporters, these losers, these people crying over sour grapes and all that kind of stuff. You know, still buying into Trump's BS rhetoric about conspiracies, about voter fraud and stuff like that, about how Joe Biden was quote unquote selected and all this other stupid shit. I mean, the fact of the matter is, you had all these frivolous lawsuits that Donald Trump filed. All of them basically were dismissed. Every single one of them. Many of these lawsuits were filed by filed in front of Republican appointees, and they still found that there was no voter fraud. He brought a case all the way to the Supreme Court, a court that's dominated by conservatives, a court that's dominated by people that he appointed. And even that court saw that his claim was frivolous and they failed to entertain his foolishness. Despite all of that, despite the fact that you got Republican election officials talking about how there was no evidence of any kind of massive voter fraud, despite the fact that Donald Trump's own attorney general said that there was no evidence that voter fraud had any kind of impact on this election. Despite all of that, you got these conspiracy wackos and Donald Trump sycophants and dick riders, for lack of a better word, on here basically saying that Biden stole the election and that he was selected and not elected, despite the fact that Joe Biden won by millions upon millions of popular votes. You know, when we count just the popular vote, despite the fact that he won and he's confirmed by the Electoral College, you got these butthurt, idiotic Trump fans on here talking about Joe Biden was selected and not elected. I mean, that just shows you like how completely idiotic some of these people here are on YouTube are. I mean, it's so bad on YouTube that YouTube actually has to put these warnings up for any video where you're talking about the election, basically telling you that the Electoral College has confirmed Joe Biden as president-elect, just to dispel a lot of these lies that are put out here on YouTube. Again, these people, many of these people aren't even concerned about what's true and false. All they're concerned with is entertaining you, just like anybody else would entertain you, like a singer or dancer or some other person. So yeah, I think that's about it. I think I'm about done. But anyway, that's my response to all these people that had all this stuff to say on here about my video, all these haters and stuff like that, all these haters thumbing down my stuff. And that's all good, man. It's all love. It's still a view, whether you like it or not. So anyway, man, those are my thoughts about this. Tell me what y'all think. Please rate, comment, subscribe. And I just want to be perfectly clear. I don't mind if people disagree with me, but you better respect me in my house. If you come in here disrespectful, you're getting deleted, blocked, and banned. Troll lives don't matter on this channel, as another YouTuber likes to say. Peace and blessings. Have a great day.